Business Express on Smooth 98.1.
What's up? Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. I'm Ayo Myra. Say, and it's time for Business Express 981 with Rotus. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Ayon. Good morning, everybody out there.
Fantastic. How are you feeling today?
Hey, we are a bit tired, but we are here and we're ready.
Were you able to get some rest yesterday?
I did a little bit, but then so much is going on. Yeah, just news here
I
and
think I see
there.
more gray hair, Rotus.
Yeah, I need it. Hey, look, barbers are not open, so my barber has to make house calls. So whenever he's on his schedule and he can make it, he comes over. But shout out to all the people doing personal grooming. It's not easy right
Honestly, not easy at
now.
all. All right, please join the conversation this morning. And welcome back to work, by the way. A number of people are resuming today after the long weekend.
Ah, yes, that's correct. But stock exchange should be opening up today as well. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
so please join the conversation. WhatsApp 0809 444 0981. On Twitter, it's at Smooth981FM. Use the hashtag Business Express 981.
All right, thank you. So, as I said yesterday, I was going to get into the gist of why America is targeting Mr. Akinwunmi Adesina, the president of the African Development Bank, our guy who's been in office or been in that position for the last 5 years. What is going on? What's happening? So here's the story. Back in February, there was a talk, a chat. Who was hosting that thing? Was it the IMF or World Bank? And one of these financial bodies. Anyway, David Malpass, he is the president of the World Bank, and he was having a chat about debt and emerging economies, emerging market economies, of which we are one of them, and a number of other economies are emerging markets. So we're talking about debt, and he was having this chat with Kristalina Georgieva. I love her name. I have to say it again. Kristalina Georgieva. She's a Bulgarian economist and the managing director of the IMF. And there was a moderator there. So they were talking about how, the economists around the world are worried about debt, the rising nature of debt. This was back in February. And, at that time, the COVID-19 issues were coming up. Some of these economies already were in trouble before COVID-19. And now they've had to, put out stimulus packages on the monetary and fiscal side. Some of them didn't have the capacity to do this. So they had to borrow, which is going to increase their debt. So they're talking about debt. David Malpass then says that, by the way, the African Development Bank, the Asian Development Bank, he now mentioned one other European bank. It's not the European Central Bank. He mentioned another Euro lending structure. He said that they're approving loans too quickly. And that in approving loans too quickly, they are making the debt structure of emerging market economies worse. And he's, he essentially was criticizing them. Now, when you have to, when Weibo people say these things, you have to read between the lines. He was essentially saying that, look, your processes of approving loans to these emerging market economies that need the money, they are either too quick or they're not transparent enough. Why you? So the African Development Bank took offense to that, and they now sent out a press release responding to him, saying that what you're saying is false. And it's misleading. And by the way, you, president of World Bank, you yourself, you've given even more loans than we have to African nations and other countries. So why are you pointing, calling us out? Anyway, that was back in February. Fast forward now to, I think, March, month or so. 12 or 13 anonymous whistleblowers, nobody knows the identities of these people, they file a complaint saying that Akinwunmi Adesina has, one, been hiring too many Nigerians at the African Development Bank. Two, he's been giving out, they accused him of nepotism, handing out positions, some of the loans he's been giving out, so on and so forth. So they filed a complaint, and by the way, he is up for re-election as the president of the African Development Bank. The election is in August, and he's running unopposed, which, I don't know, may have raised some eyebrows here and there. So he's running unopposed, and the anonymous whistleblowers wrote a letter, filed a complaint. It made headlines, And then what happened was, okay, as is the normal corporate governance for any private institution, public institution, or development institution, the ethics committee decided to review the charges of nepotism and lack of transparency and so on against him. So they reviewed it, and he was cleared of all charges, right? I mean, this is how the structure works. You got an ethics committee, they sit down, they review the facts and so on, and then they make their judgment. Everybody thought this thing was over, right? They make the anonymous whistleblowers, they made the charge. The ethics committee found nothing wrong with how Akinwunmi Adesina had been conducting himself at the African Development Bank, and that was it. Only for 2 days ago, or was it 3 days ago? Was it the day before yesterday? Before yesterday, I think. Steve Mnuchin, you are the Trump's Secretary of Treasury Secretary, now writes a letter to the African Development Bank saying that this your ethics committee, we have some, what they said was, quote, serious misgivings about the findings of the ethics committee in regards to the investigation into Mr. Akinwunmi Adesina, and we don't believe the process through which they went about investigating it. We don't believe that it is thorough or it was transparent, and they should appoint, the African Development Bank should appoint an independent body to reevaluate the case. What's going on? I mean, America has its own problems. I don't know if everybody seen that, although I think they just responded to China. China went to put out one security law against Hong Kong, flaring up issues over there. People are saying that China was able to sneak that in because America is facing, Trump is facing a re-election. He has his issues with COVID-19. Americans I think they're approaching 100,000 deaths right now. They have released stimulus after stimulus. U.S. debts, what's the balance sheet now for the Fed? Last I checked. By the way, the Fed, this is the Central Bank of the United States. Their balance sheet, the central bank releases an update every week, a balance sheet update every week. In fact, ending Wednesday. So we're expecting a new update. But the balance sheet has dropped like $2 trillion between January and now. Last I checked, which was last week, it was at $6.9 trillion, I think. So it keeps increasing because of this. Anyway, the point is, all this gist I'm saying is that America has its own issues. They've got a lot of things they're dealing with. Where does Steve Mnuchin, the man who is the Treasury Secretary of the United States, where do you get the time to now pen a letter to the African Development Bank saying that you don't believe that the ethics committee, I mean, he essentially just walked all over the credibility of the ethics committee of the African Development Bank, completely dismissed their investigation of Akinwunmi Adesina, and said that they have to develop it. So send it out to an independent body. So that's where the case is right now. I mean, he's essentially called the credibility of the African Development Bank into question. He also, this was very interesting, in the letter, he also made it a point to say that Akinwunmi Adesina is running for re-election unopposed. Yeah, he was like, oh, and this I would hope that this election of the unopposed candidates is meets all credible structures or benchmarks and so on and so forth. And it would really be nice if you send this to an independent committee so that the credibility of the African Development Bank shall not be called into question. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what additional did to anybody. People are suspecting something. I don't know what's going on. It's quite odd. By the way, speaking of loans, looking at the addendum to the medium-term expenditure framework that was put out by the Ministry of Finance. Interesting enough, the loan amount. Now, this is just a coincidence. Although I saw it the same day that the letter came out, but I think they're completely. What I'm about to say is completely unrelated. But initially, remember, we asked for $6.9 billion from the IMF, the World Bank, and the African Development Bank. So 3.4 billion was coming from the IMF, 2.5 billion was coming from the World Bank, and 1 billion was coming from the African Development Bank. If you go and check the addendum to the medium-term expenditure framework for 2021-2022, the amount from the African Development Bank has been cut in half. It's now 500 million. And I was like, when did that happen? Is it that the initial 1 billion that was being thrown about was incorrect, and we never ever planned. I think they're now going to get funds from is it the Islamic Bank or somewhere else? But that was just a weird coincidence. I don't think they're completely related. That because they are criticizing them by giving loans, they now cut in half the initial money they wanted to give to Nigeria to fight COVID-19. So anyway, that's we ran out of time yesterday. That's the latest on that particular issue, but it does leave people scratching their heads as to why. What did he do? And he's done one 5-year term. He won an award. Akinwunmi Adesina won an award. I can't remember who the award was from, but for his performance as president of African Development Bank, he's conducted himself very well. He's made Nigeria proud, and I just I don't know. It's quite weird. I don't know why. Although I think some people are saying the U.S. Okay, wait. Andy has a message. Hang on. Andy says, good morning. The issue on additional is all politics. I suspect Trump needs something from him in order to bounce back the U.S. economy before the election comes. God help additional in this one. Yeah, I know. Thanks, Andy. I think they want to pick someone else. The U.S. has a lot of pull, but so does Nigeria as far as the, is it the shares or so in the AFDB or representation. I don't know if the Nigerian government can get involved in this. I doubt, because I think this is his issue with the AFDB. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. Speaking of dollars that are needed, who saw the capital importation reports from the Bureau of Statistics yesterday, looking at the amount of money that flowed into Nigeria in the first 3 months of this year. The amount was $5.8 billion that came in for the first 3 months of this year. Hang on, we have a message from Ibrahim. It says, oh well, now we know who's apparently sponsoring this attack. Being the president of the AFDB is huge, and the same institution will be critical to the African economy and the ILO world economy. I sincerely hope he pulls through. Ibrahim, I hope so as well, because this is quite weird. AIE says, good morning, Roses. You no longer campaign for single-digit loans. What went wrong? AIE, hey, I got tired, but I'm still pushing. NPC meeting is tomorrow. They postponed. They pushed the meeting back because of the Eid Mubarak holidays, Monday, Tuesday. So I believe there's, to start tomorrow and Friday. We'll see what they do with the benchmark interest rate, which is at 13.5%. They can't reduce rates now. If they reduce rates, liquidity will go up, and then you and other folks like myself will now run out and go and get foreign exchange. So I don't know. But I'm still doing my best to campaign for single. I want to get a house. Me, you, everybody wants to get a nice mortgage, 30, 40-year mortgage at 6.5%. Be able to afford low payments. That's the Nigerian dream, is it not? Is it not home ownership? But we keep pushing. I'm still pushing. Oluzio, AFDB and additional. It strongly smells of politics. If you don't realize it by now, it means it's already being played against you. So there ought to be some media, PR, fight back, and spineful support from the federal government. Keep being said. Yeah, Olu, you make a point. I think Nigeria should say something. Although, this is why you want to make sure that you are in a powerful position before you can come. Can Nigeria talk? Trump was on the phone with President Buhari. Was it last week? He approved, either sent ventilators here, or I think it was ventilators. America sent some ventilators. Approval for all this money that's disbursed from World Bank, IMF. America is there. Does Nigeria have the wherewithal to stand up to them and say, hey, why are you targeting our guy? It's a tough position that we're in because of the aid that we get from the US. Remember when Buhari went over there and all that stuff. So I don't know how much we'll be able to fight back on this, but we'll see. Because again, I'm scratching my head again. I think it's because they want to pick somebody else, or they don't like the fact that he's running unopposed for re-election in August. Either way, MI from Akoka, I saw Adesina as one of Nigeria's finest exports, so I really scratched my head too. I pray his case turns out to be that of the prince of this world cometh and he findeth nothing in me. Hey, I like that, MI. I hope so too. Sheni, good morning, Rotus and Ayo. If they report that the USA is the second largest shareholder in the FB, then they should have a say in who manages the bank. If you can't take it, don't take their money. Well, that's Sheni. You make a good point. What is Nigeria's potential GDP compared to the reality? AIA, that's a good question. I have always said that if Nigeria gets their power, get power right. I'm biased because obviously I'm in Nigeria, but I think it will be a top 3 economy, which is me, that's I'm talking out of the side of my neck. Top three economies are the US, China, and Japan, and they're in the trillions of dollars. So we're probably, if we get power right over the next 10 years, Nigeria could probably be a top 10 economy. That's more realistic. We just have to get the power right because the economy has so much potential. So we're at 400 and what, 400 and something billion-dollar economy. You could double that. You could triple that if you get power right and get all the other things correct. What was I was just talking about capital importation real quick. $5.8 billion came in the first 3 months of the year. 4.3 billion of that went to foreign portfolio investments. So much of the money went to foreign portfolio investments. Only about, guys and girls, $214 million came into Nigeria in FDI over the past 3 months. It was really, really, really low, right? And if we want this economy to grow, if we want jobs to come in, as AI is asking you about what to push our economy for, we need foreign direct investment to be coming in. Funny enough, so out of the 5.8 billion, 4.3 billion was foreign portfolio investment. Out of the 4.3 billion foreign portfolio investment, 3.4 billion of that went to the money market. Wasn't even into the stock market. 600 million went to stock market, another what, 800 million went to bonds or something. So with what the central bank has been doing with the OMO auctions, trying to get as much dollars in here, that's where foreign folks have been parking their money. Analysts are saying that was Q1, though. Q2, Q3, if things get really ugly, the money might leave. But again, 5.3 billion came in, 5.8, sorry, came in the first 3 months of the year. Capital importation up about 53% from 3.45 billion that came in the last 3 months of Q4 2019. But 30% down from Q1 2019. We had 8 billion that came in. We need more money. If you take anything away from this show, Nigeria needs billions of dollars. We're still looking for another 7-8 billion. So that's that they still have to come in. All right, Harry Emmanuel, I hope Mr. Adesina gets a fair process, even if the case is revisited. How often does someone in that same position run unopposed? It would be interesting to know. Yeah, I need to look that up, Henry. I need to look that up. I think that is pinching the Americans and making them upset, because you know how they look at us when it comes to elections and all this other thing. Africa only produces only 2% of what we consume. Until we become industrious, we will keep getting the short end of the stick. MI from Akuka. The most industrious nation in Africa is South Africa. By the way, they were the second largest source of capital importation that came in. The UK was number one. So thank you, UK, for sending your money over here, even though it's into the foreign portfolio investments. Please send for FDI. Send FDI here. Ogenochukwu says American interest, federal government too weak to help Adesina. Yes, I was saying that earlier. Power should be decentralized. Good point. AIE says even without power, what can we do and what are we doing? Because we will not be going up to power. Look, AIE, you need to be productive. Everybody needs to be working. You have to have mechanized agriculture. You need to produce. That's what Nigeria needs to do. We're not producing enough. We need to be producing more food. You need to have more people going to work. You need to have industries that are just producing jobs. Manufacturing needs to be robust. The textiles, the tech sector, the financial institutions, that's what Nigeria needs, and it's there. It has to be the power. All these folks, young folks that are very entrepreneurial, that are building things, they just need 24/7 power to do what they do. People who are into cold storage, who sell ice cream, who sell frozen fish, who sell frozen chicken, they need 40% of businesses, their overhead costs go to power. Come on, I'm starting to rant because they took lights yesterday and I was so angry. Anyway, so we need power. Once you get the power, right, everything else falls into place. Cornelius from Agbara says Akinwunmi Adesina, nepotism, unopposed election. Some Nigerians have already tarnished the image of our dear nation. The world sees Nigerians as criminals. There is no smoke without fire. So Cornelius is the first person who isn't really on board with Adesina. I don't know. Cornelius, I think, again, he won an award. I can't remember what the award was. I'll look it up. But Akinwunmi Adesina, I have to say, he's this sharp man. I've heard him speak in public. I think the way he's run the African Development Bank has been very sound, right? And but yeah, again, if you want to look at it from both sides and be balanced, should you really be running unopposed? I mean, yeah, even though you've done a very good job, you should at least have somebody, running against you. But I don't know. We'll see. Again, my own beef with the US is that The ethics committee, which is part of corporate governance, reviewed his case and cleared him. So I do suspect that it's politics. Benga, Kamo, Benga, where have you been? How can you produce without power? Why our public officials don't see it, I don't know. Benga, that's a really good question. Ayo is supposed to be back here giving me air traffic control signals to say we're out of time, and she's not. So it's 7 o'clock, so I'm gonna keep eating this time until she runs into the studio and says that it's time to go. Ah, there she is. Now she's coming. I was just saying that where are you with the air traffic control signals? We're at a time. Real quick. No, I'm eating more time. Let's see now. Which other messages here? Wait now, let me read this last message now. Good morning, Rotus. America is second largest shareholders after Nigeria. We're still in a advantage position against the US. The only challenge is that Nigeria can't be judged in its own case. We'll end it there. That's from Lanre Lawal. Thank you all for your messages. We'll see what happens with the NPC. We'll keep following this issue with Akinwunmi Adesina. I wish him luck. We'll see what happens. And that's Business Express. See you guys tomorrow.
Thank you.
Business Express on Smooth 98.1.
Oh, who started that?
Every Monday to Friday at 6:45.
I was like, I'm going to take up this extra time. I'm going to keep talking until I get back here. Are you done? Are you going back now? Sorry. Are you done printing or are you going?